Hi, this is Colin Sandberg from Backbone Performance, and I'm going to go over today how to clean your bike. So first, a few things that you will either need or you may want. This is a work stand. This is a Park Tool work stand. This is something you don't necessarily need to clean your bike. A lot of people will just lean it up against the wall, but it certainly comes in handy because it's easy to elevate your bike, keep it up in the air, and we can pop off the wheels very easily. Now, here is just a bucket of soapy water, regular dish soap. I've got a regular old kitchen sponge in here. I've got a couple other brushes that may make it easier to clean the bike, getting into tight spaces, and some people just may prefer a brush like this over a sponge. I've got some degreaser that we'll use later to clean the chain. I've got some degreaser spray that we may need. Got some goof off. Now, just a warning, this stuff is really toxic, probably one of the most toxic substances on earth, but I will say that it's great for getting some of the really stuck on goo and stuff. We've got a few different types of chain lube here. This is your regular dry chain lube that you'll use in most conditions. This is a wet lube, which would be good in wet conditions, because if you use a dry lube when it's raining, it'll wash off pretty easily. And then this is more of a long-lasting lube that is really good for training. You don't have to lube your bike as often. Under normal circumstances, you'd probably want to lube your bike at least once a week with the dry lube. And certainly anytime it rains or gets really dirty. This is a chain cleaner. This is a Park Tool one, but there are lots of other chain cleaners like this. Not everybody uses these, but I kind of like them because it really gets down and dirty in there. And then I've got some different rags. Just got a regular car washing mitt here. We've got a dirty rag and a couple clean rags for drying off the bike after we wash it and for really buffing up the frame. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my hose. I'm going to rinse everything off here. One of the questions some people ask are, should I clean my bike with a power washer? If you go to a car wash, a do-it-yourself car wash, you can find a very powerful hose and really cleans things off quickly. Unfortunately, it washes out a lot of the grease that may be in the bearings and can make your bike rust a little faster. You will see some of the pro teams using these, and that's because they are effective, but you got to keep in mind that most of these pros aren't expecting their bike to last years and years. So now I'm just going to pop off the wheels here. I'll pop this into the 11 in the back to make it easier to pop back on, pop the brake releases, and just pop that wheel right out there. I'm just going to take my sponge and wash off everything here, wash off the main frame, wash off the bottle cages, underside here, get the brakes, these areas and these little nooks and crannies. A lot of dirt and grease can accumulate. Get the handlebars, the levers, inside the bottle cages, behind the fork, down the fork. And what I'm doing today is really just a regular basic cleaning. This is not a heavy duty cleaning that I may need to do, say, if I did a cross race or a mountain bike race in very muddy conditions. This is just a regular bike, isn't incredibly dirty, but just got, a week or two of crud on it. You'd want to do this anytime your bike gets dirty before a race. You want your bike to look nice and spiffy for the sponsors, and not show up with, doesn't make anybody look good if you show up to a race with a dirty bike. Anytime you ride in the rain, you're going to want to clean your bike afterwards, especially the drivetrain, because that'll rust over pretty quickly. And I got a good basic clean there. Now I'm going to take my brush here just to get into maybe a few of these tighter spots, like the front derailleur, inside there, behind the chain rings, maybe behind the brakes here, anywhere that might be a little bit more difficult. And there we have it. You'll notice I'm not getting super detailed with everything. Like I said, it's just a basic cleaning. I'm going to rinse it off like this, and it'll get behind the seat. And I'll let that air dry a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to take these wheels and I'm going to wash off, really scrub down the rims. You get a lot of rubber that sort of melts on here, can cause squeaking. Also just going to wipe down the tires. Obviously that's what's in contact with the road all the time, so you can pick up a lot of crud there. Maybe just quickly get these spokes here. I'm just going to dry everything off. Doesn't need to be super dry, but do a general drying here. Everything off so you don't get any water stuck in there. And get these wheels, rims, spokes. What I like to do is just sort of push this up against the wall, take the corner of a rag, and do a little flossing here. Now you may want to use the goof off a little bit if you've got some really baked on residue onto these. But as for everyday use, for a training cassette, this does the job well enough. And there we go. You can see it's not perfect, but it's good enough for my training cassette. I'm going to grab my chain cleaning tool here. It's just flips open like this. Going to pour in some degreaser up to the fill line. And come down here, put it on the bottom of the chain, put the top piece on, lock it back up. And I'm just going to spin this nice and easy backwards. And let the chain cleaner do its job. And that should be about good. You can see how much cleaner it looks. And I'm going to grab my dirty rag again. And what I'm going to do here is really just rub this down, get all that excess degreaser off of here, because it's probably collected a lot of degreaser. Any extra gunk. Now, I may want to also take a look at these wheels, these derailleur pulleys, and you see how this top one's got some extra gunk, so I can just keep this rag here, spin it backwards, take off any extra gunk there and here, any greasy parts of this. You may want to look at these chain rings. Chain rings look okay. Again, I'm not going to be able to do a detailed cleaning of this unless I really take this off. I'm going to also wipe off these brake pads. These tend to collect extra gunk. The crown of the fork, make sure there's nothing in there. get a little bit behind the seat here, and we're looking pretty good. Now at this point, I may want to take one of my clean rags and some degreaser, and if there's any spots where I notice that I need a little extra attention, might want to do it at this point, because as you saw when we went through it before, didn't do a super detailed job. So maybe if I see a little bit of extra gunk on these bottle cages, just put a little bit of degreaser spray on there, wipe it off. Today I'm just going to grab the dry lube, and what I'm going to do is hold this here and just put some chain lube, making sure I get each link in there, spin it around a few times. One of the mistakes people make a lot is they put way too much chain lube, or they forget to wipe it off. You always want to wipe off excess chain lube. Take your dirty rag and just grab that excess chain lube here. Last thing I want to do is may just want to check the shifting here, make sure everything is looking okay. So run it down to the bottom, make sure, give it a quick test. Make sure the brakes are centered. Pop on the front wheel now. And everything looks pretty good, so we are pretty much ready to roll. I'll just mention before we finish up here that there are a few mistakes that you see people make a lot. One is that they take apart their entire bike when they're cleaning it. You definitely don't want to do that. If repairs are necessary, if your bottom bracket is creaking, you need to take out the crank, lube up the bearings, that's one thing. If your headset is loose, or if the shifting is messed up, anything's going on, then you repair that specifically. But just for a normal cleaning, you really don't want to take too much apart except popping the wheels off. Because you can get into trouble. A lot of times you'd be doing this before a race. You don't want to mess something up and then realize it when you're 5 miles into the race and have it free up there. Another mistake people make a lot is, like I mentioned earlier, using a power washer. You don't generally want to do that. You'll push all the grease out of the bearings. Third, don't use WD-40. A lot of people used to love WD-40 for household repairs. Great all-purpose cleaner and lubricant, but doesn't work well on bikes, and it will over time cause your moving parts to rust. And that is about it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Please send us your suggestions for anything else you'd like to see.